Minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This congressional session is not even a year old, and the Republican leadership has already tried to pass more than 125 anti-environmental bills, amendments, and riders. They started by attacking health standards to reduce carbon dioxide pollution on the premise that we should trust oil-funded soothsayers over climatologists and reject the overwhelming scientific consensus that global warming is already occurring and threatens our environment and public health. When the Republicans attacked greenhouse gas standards, they claimed that they nonetheless supported Clean Air Act standards to reduce toxic pollutants like mercury. After all, it was a Republican president who signed this legislation creating the Environmental Protection Agency more than 40 years ago. A Republican president signed the Clean Air Act of 1970, which established the process that the EPA is using today to reduce toxic pollution, including mercury and dioxin. A Republican president signed the Clean Air Act amendments of 1990, establishing, steel yourself, a cap-and-trade program to reduce sulfur dioxide pollution. That Clean Air Act bill of 1990 also accelerated reductions of other toxic pollutants because Congress believed that the EPA was not moving quickly enough to reduce toxic pollution. All of these major clean air bills were passed by Democratic Congresses with Republican presidents. While it may seem unbelievable in today's political climate, there was a time in the not-so-distant past when environmental protection had bipartisan support as a result of the bipartisan effort to protect the environment. Our economy grew while air pollution levels fell and public health improved. Air quality here in Washington, D.C., in Los Angeles and other major cities is healthier today than it was in 1970, thanks to the Clean Air Act. Our automobiles no longer emit unlimited quantities of asthma and lung cancer-causing pollution or lead. Our power plants now have scrubbers to reduce the sulfur dioxide pollution that caused poisoned rivers and streams throughout the United States before 1990. Mercury pollution has fallen 80% thanks to that act. Thanks to these improvements in air quality, the Clean Air Act saves approximately 160,000 lives a year by preventing deaths otherwise caused by pollution. When this new Republican Congress attacked greenhouse gas regulations, they claimed that they would not reverse the improvements that the Clean Air Act has made in reducing toxic pollution. Of course, their attempt to block greenhouse gas pollution standards was only the opening salvo. This Republican House has passed dozens of bills and amendments, effectively repealing the Clean Air Act by blocking regulation of soot, smog, and dioxin. Their assault on the Clean Air Act is so comprehensive that they've passed legislation to deregulate multiple kinds of soot. Today we'll vote on a bill to deregulate mercury and other toxic pollution from cement factories. This bill would not only deregulate mercury pollution from cement factories, it would also block the EPA public health standards for other deadly pollutants, such as particulate pollution that scars lung tissue, causes cancer and emphysema. Blocking public health standards for cement kilns will increase net costs for the American taxpayers by $6.3 to $17.6 billion every year by increasing the incidence of heart attacks, lung cancer, asthma attacks, and developmental disabilities in children. They claim that these anti-public health bills would create jobs. The fact is that while the Clean Air Act has reduced the dangerous air pollution for the last 40 years, saving 160,000 lives last year alone, America's economy doubled in size. It didn't shrink. The sky didn't fall, and the worst predictions of our friends on the other side, not one of them came true. I've introduced two amendments to H.R. 2681. I'm only on, Madam Chairman. This will clarify that the provisions of this bill will not go into effect if it causes respiratory illness, cardiac disease, or other diseases or death. This amendment would apply throughout the country, ensuring that rural, suburban, and urban Americans would be protected equally from reckless provisions in the underlying bill. My amendment says the administrator shall not delay actions to reduce emissions from any cement kiln if such emission is causing respiratory or cardiovascular illness and death, including cases of heart attack, asthma attacks, and bronchitis. This ensures that if H.R. 2618 passes, God help us, we will not be increasing the rate of respiratory disease or sending more children to the hospital with asthma attacks. Since members of the majority claim to be equally concerned about the health of our constituents, I wanted to give them opportunity to prove it. So, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back.